Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. So, Mad Max Furiosa has been out for a little bit, and I saw it a couple days ago. I wanted to give myself a little bit of time to think about it before I made a full-on review, but that being said, I am finally ready. Let's dive into this, shall we?
Modern movie review.
Okay, so as with the majority of my movie reviews, I'm going to issue a spoiler warning. I try to keep those spoilers to a minimum, but because I'm going to be talking about the movie and I did really enjoy it, I do want to risk you... Okay, so right off the bat, I do want to go ahead and give a spoiler warning. I'm going to be talking about this movie. I enjoyed it for the most part, and I think that it was a really good movie. I'm going to try to keep the spoilers to a minimum just to be on the safe side. If you have not seen the movie, you might want to click off of this and come watch it later. But that being said, let's go ahead and start off with our spoiler-free thoughts. So, right off the bat, I do want to go ahead and say, as with the majority of these Mad Max movies, I think that it absolutely excels in the department of the visuals. The visuals look incredible. The color grading of this movie is absolutely fantastic. I think that all of the set design is fantastic. Like, I don't know what parts of it are CGI and what parts are not CGI. And for the most part, I think it does a really good job of putting you into this world that feels so desolate and feels like such a terrible wasteland to live in. And I think that they do an excellent job of just fleshing out this place that was in Mad Max Fury Road and the other Mad Max movies. And it does a good job of helping you understand where all of the characters are, where all the characters are coming from. And it actually does a really interesting job of showcasing kind of the motives behind specific characters, and some that you will even see in Mad Max Fury Road. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I think that they did a really good job of fleshing out characters, fleshing out kind of the politics and some of the rules behind borders and stuff like that in the cities, and kind of understanding the connection between each of these towns. Because in the original movie Mad Max Fury Road, we didn't actually ever see Gastown or Bullet Farm or any of those places. We just kind of had these assumption that it does in fact exist. We know that it's a thing that is actually a real place, and that was all we needed to know about it. But here we actually get to visit each of these different places. We get to see the green room in all of its glory for the beginning of the movie. I think that it's just a really interesting way of showcasing what is going on in this world. And I think that overall, if you're here for world building, if you're here for cool action sequences with the cars going vroom vroom, it's all there for you. It's fantastic. I think that the story is a little lackluster, and there's a couple of spots here and there where I have a little bit of issues, but overall, this movie is a very fun movie, and the action and everything is great. But that being said, now I'm going to kind of get a little bit more into spoiler territory here. So like I said, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead and click off now. But that being said, this movie was really interesting. So the more that I've thought about this movie after leaving it, the more that I've been okay, there's a lot of little nitpicky problems that I have with it. So right off the bat, I do want to go ahead and say my out-of-theater reaction for this movie was, oh my god, I finally get these Mad Max movies. Because I watched Mad Max Fury Road the other day, and I was like, yeah, it's cool and all, but it's just a spectacle, it's just a giant action sequence, it's a 2-hour-long chase sequence. And if you're into chase sequences, that can be entertaining to watch, but eventually it gets to a point where it's just this is too much. We need to slow it down, we need to kind of build characters a little bit. And I think that this movie did a better job of blending the action sequences with actually giving the characters time to grow and develop, and kind of giving us a reason to root for specific characters. I feel like that was something with Mad Max Fury Road, where it's you can understand why we're rooting for the specific characters, but at the same time, we never got an opportunity to understand why the evil people are evil. It was just, okay, the evil person is this evil person. That's it. Whereas here, we kind of get a little bit of backstory between Dementis, which is the character that Chris Hemsworth plays, and his origin story is fantastic. His motives are fantastic. His energy throughout this entire film is really great. I actually really like the fact that he's kind of not necessarily being a prophet, but he's actually trying to spread the wealth, and he's trying to be more of a leader that's actually compassionate, and kind of the opposite of how Immortal Joe is the high people are going to continue to stay high, and all of the smaller people, if they want to try to work up the ranks, they can attempt to work up the ranks, but for the most part, they're just going to be picking for scraps for the majority of their lives. And I think that they do a really interesting job of kind of showcasing the balance between, here's what happens with a group that is trying to be civil and trying to be equals with one another, and then here's how, at least on the side with Immortal Joe, they're being sufficient. They're all getting food, they're all getting water, they're getting what they need to survive. Whereas in Chris Hemsworth's character's attempt to make everybody equal, a lot of people are dying, a lot of people are fighting each other, there's a lot of chaos, and it kind of brings up an interesting political debate about whether or not a dictatorship is okay, in the sense of these people are all dying because of stuff that could be controlled if you guys... It's basically order versus chaos. And if freedom is really worth a bunch of people dying and a bunch of chaos, or is it being orderly, I'm not going to dive too far into that, but I think it's very interesting kind of like this versus that they throw at us in this movie. And I thought that world building, that political landscape that they were kind of creating there was actually really fascinating. I loved everything that they did with Chris Hemsworth's character. I think that he was fantastic. I think that for the most part, they did a good job of showcasing that, like, yes, he's a really shitty person, but he wasn't always. And he kind of was like forged into being a really shitty person. And he had a goal that was, hey, everybody can be equal, everybody deserves food, everybody deserves this, everybody deserves that. And you can tell that, like, in a way, he's a good guy. But at the end of the day, he is the villain of this movie. He is absolutely shitty to Furiosa, and he is absolutely shitty to a bunch of other people in his life, and it ends up coming back to bite him in the ass. But it is fun what they originally set up with his character, and I really like that. Another thing that I really liked about this movie, I think that there are so many interesting chase sequences that kind of outdo Fury Road, in my opinion. In the Fury Road, there's like the weird like pole vaulter dudes who are like riding in their cars and then they like sweep down on poles and stuff like that, and that stuff is cool. In this movie, some of the Mentis's men are like flying, and they're basically like parasailing behind the cars and behind the war rig and stuff like that. And there's a lot of really interesting action sequences that was a really big fan of. Another thing that I really liked that this movie had, there was kind of like a montage of them creating the war rig and creating some of the other vehicles and stuff like that. And I really appreciated that because as somebody who is very interested in like the mechanical side of things and kind of like engineering and stuff, I love seeing scenes where we get to see the things that people are making actually get created. Because watching Mad Max Fury Road, one of my big takeaways was just like, okay, these cars are really cool and stuff like that, but like, where are they getting the pieces for these cars? How are they putting these cars together? Like, how does this work? And we kind of got a little bit of that in this movie. I wish we had gotten a little bit more, but for the most part, the glimpses and stuff we got were great. And now that I've talked about all of the side things, we're going to actually talk about the main plot of this movie, the main character of this movie, Furiosa. Was she great in this movie? I think that the actresses who played her did as good of a job as they could. I think that she might not have been written as well. This movie, and here's where it kind of starts falling apart for me a little bit, has so many of those moments where, you know, when you're watching a movie and the character makes a decision that, like, any logical thinking character would never in a million years make this decision, but because the movie needs to happen, they go out and they make certain decisions. That happens like 3 times in this movie. There are so many different times where Anya Taylor-Joy's character could run away. Like, Furiosa could make it back to the green place. She probably would be able to get like a 4-hour head start before anybody even notices that she is missing. And instead of doing that, she will go back and try to save somebody, or she'll go back and do this, or she will go back and do something else. And she just constantly is making really, really bad decisions. And it's really annoying to me, and it's really frustrating because I feel like, in a sense, what they were trying to set up here was Furiosa needs to make it home, but because in Mad Max Fury Road, it's a really big deal that whenever she gets back to the green place, she realizes that the green place doesn't exist anymore. So I feel like what they wanted to do was have this movie be about her and her journey back to the green place, and then they never ended up getting to the green place. And I think that it really throws off the story a lot because for the most part, it seems like that's the plot. Okay, Furiosa, she's gone through a lot of really terrible things. She got captured, she got enslaved, and then eventually she worked her way up the ranks. She's now driving the war rig, and now there's an opportunity that this other driver is going to help her escape, and she's going to be able to go back home, right? And that is fantastic. I love that. I'm glad that they were kind of like teasing that this was going to be a thing that's going to happen, and then it ultimately doesn't end up happening at all in the movie, and it really drives me insane because it's like that's what we've been building towards this entire story, and the shift from that to her character arc actually being going and tracking down Chris Hemsworth's character and killing him feels like a decision that was made really late in the process of making this movie. Because even though the revenge story makes sense for her character and it is really epic, I will admit I love everything that they do with that revenge plot. The last like 20 minutes or so of this movie are absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely love it. That's part of the reason why I waited a little while to make this review, because had I reviewed it immediately, those last 20 minutes were so good. I was like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my entire life. But now that I've sat down and I've thought about it, Furiosa does not really make good decisions at all in this entire movie. And I know that's like such a minor nitpicky thing, but like as somebody who's written a lot of scripts and as somebody who has like worked on like movies, TV shows, stuff like this, it is hard to look past writing flaws like that where it's like, okay, well, she's doing this so that the movie can happen. And it's kind of painful because it's out of character. It's not something that actually makes a lot of sense. And, like, it could be argued that part of the reason why she does it for some of these sequences is because it's showing that she's, like, very compassionate and she wants to save other people. But she's been enslaved, and every single person who she has ever met has treated her like shit pretty much the entire movie. The fact that she wants to stay and she wants to stick back doesn't make sense. It doesn't sit well with me. I was not a fan of that. But, yeah. That being said, though, the action, the spectacle, all of that stuff, it's fantastic. Chris Hemsworth's character is great. Like I said, the final 20 minutes, I'm not going to get too far into what it is, but it's brilliant, and it's so fantastic. The sequences where she cuts off her arm, pretty cool, very symbolic. I like the fact that they set up the fact that her arm that is missing is where she had, like, a star map for how to get home, and the fact that she, the fact that she had to cut that arm off is very symbolic, and I think that entire sequence was really beautifully well done. And there's a lot of moments like that where it's, like, cinematically beautiful. Like, there are so many breathtaking stills, and it's one of those movies where it's like, when you get it on DVD or you get it on digital, you're gonna want to pause certain moments and be like, okay, that is a movie poster right there. That right there is the lock screen, a wallpaper, whatever. And there's so many, like, beautiful moments that literally feel like paintings. And I really enjoy how beautiful and visually stunning this is. The sound design also really well done, but there's just a lot of plot elements that I feel like they had a lot of moving pieces, and eventually when this movie came out, I feel like they didn't have a chance to finish moving the pieces. They just, like, were like, okay, well, we gotta just drop this now. Because it kind of feels like one of those things where it's like you're writing something, and then they're like, it's like a time thing, and then they're like, 3, 2, 1, put your pencils down. And they were like, okay, well, everything in the middle, we couldn't quite figure out. But the last 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes, and then a lot of those small individual action sequences, they had very thought out. But there's a lot of moments where, like, Furiosa does something that I'm like, I don't think they even knew why Furiosa was doing what she was doing in that moment. But that being said, thought this was a fun movie. If you're the kind of person who only goes to one movie a month, I think that this probably is one of the better movies of May. And this is another one where it's heavily benefited seeing this in theaters. I'm pretty sure if I watched this on TV, I probably would not enjoy it very much. So overall, I'm going to give this movie a final rating of an 82 out of 100. I think that it's pretty solid. It definitely could be significantly better. It made me understand the hype for the Mad Max movies, though, because I will admit, watching Mad Max Fury Road the other day, I watched it on my TV, and I was like, this is all right, but it's not that great. Watching this in theaters, it goes pretty crazy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool, and the spectacle of it all is fantastic. So yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching it, and if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Bow.
Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.